ね、海流が楽しいバトルをやろうよ。
行け流星群。
Hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Pokemon Journeys episode 65, Dragon Battle, Satoshi vs Iris. Excuse me. Dragon Battle, Ash vs Iris. This was the 1150th episode of the Pokemon anime, which I guess you could say is kind of a milestone. This was certainly a notable episode of the anime. We got Iris's long-awaited return, and we got to see a battle between two champions. There's so much to break down and discuss about this episode, so let's get straight into the highlights. The episode starts at the Cerise Park, but we don't waste any time. Ash has already received a letter from Iris asking for him to come battle her in Unova, and after some quick backstory, the boys head off to Opelucid City. Hey, I'll take any excuse to use Opelucid City's white and white 2 theme for some background music. Go takes the trip as an opportunity to catch some Unova Pokemon, specifically Pansear and Panpour, but he is struggling to find a Pansage, although he does already have a Grass-type monkey Pokemon on his shoulder. He ends up throwing a Pokeball at Iris, who is sleeping in a tree, which was an allusion to how Ash met Iris way back in Best Wishes. I guess this is going to be a running gag with Go meeting Ash's old traveling companions in the same method that Ash did, so I'm looking forward to him stealing Misty's bike at some point in the future. Ash has made it to the Opelucid City gym, which I guess is where Iris asked him to come for their battle. Ash has never had a gym battle here before since he got his 8th Unova badge from Roxy in Burbank City, so it was cool to see him come here for this episode. Drayden appears and says that this random Axew is his, so yeah, I was spot on my predictions last week when I said this was definitely not Iris's Axew. I probably won't mention Drayden again during this review, so I'll just touch on it now. I didn't really expect to see Drayden in this episode, but I thought he was a nice surprise and he really added to the story, kind of like how Gherkin did back in episode 25. They enter the gym only for Emolga to fly in and turn the lights on, and I was a little surprised to see Emolga return like this. We didn't see all of Iris's Pokemon in this episode, but Emolga was spotlighted for some reason, I guess because it's cute and it gave Pikachu something to do since he wasn't very important in this episode. Also, maybe I should have gone back and watched a couple of Best Wishes episodes in anticipation for Iris's return, but since when was Iris's Emolga this nice? We didn't see any of its mischievous side at all in this episode. Iris makes her appearance, and after Ash questions her outfit change, it's revealed that Iris has become the Unova Champion, which certainly came as a surprise to Ash and Go. This entire Iris reunion and the storyline catch-up was rushed, but they at least try and explain how Iris has continued her training towards becoming a Dragon Master, and this has led her to become the strongest trainer in all of Unova. And a fun fact, this Goodra we see here is the first Goodra ever in the history of the anime that isn't Ash's Goodra. Although this one doesn't physically appear in the show, so I'm kind of just assuming that this means Iris has caught a Goodra, but we can't say that for sure, I guess. Iris talks about how even though she's a champion, she's still chasing her dream of becoming a Dragon Master, and there it is, guys. She said the line, she called Ash a kid. And even though both of these guys are champions now, they're definitely still acting like kids, which shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. Iris challenges Ash to battle against her team of dragons, and Ash responds by saying he'll use his own dragon types, and we get the scene of Ash's Dragonite introducing itself to Iris in the only way Ash's Dragonite knows how. Iris bonds with it pretty quickly with her whole understanding the feelings of dragon Pokemon thing, and more on that later. We're finally at the battle, which only gets started halfway through this episode, so again, my prediction was pretty accurate that this episode was going to have a similar pacing to the Karina return back in episode 25. The first half was set up to reintroduce Ash's old friend, and the second half was dedicated to the battle. Side note, but I always prefer when they give us nice full screenshots of the versus screens, but oh well, at least Iris is using the same pose as her battle sprite in Black 2 and White 2. That was a nice touch. So Ash and Iris's ranked battle is a 2v2, and it opens with the Dragonite vs Dragonite clash we've all been waiting for. I can officially check that one off the list of things in my one thing Ash needs to do in every region video that has actually happened in the anime now, and Ash's very affectionate Dragonite is rather intimidated by Iris's, showing that its personality has pretty much remained consistent since we last saw it. Iris leads with Dragon Rush, and Ash tries to counter with Hyper Beam. It fails miserably. That Hyper Beam never really works for Ash and Dragonite, does it? Ash has better luck by using Hurricane, and it even deflects a super effective Ice Beam away, which was pretty important. Iris calls for another Dragon Rush and nails Ash's Dragonite with another strong blow. I'm going pretty fast through this, but it's worth pointing out that the old Dragon Rush animation is back, and it's awesome, although this entire battle is animated pretty spectacularly unnecessarily in my opinion. Ash's Dragonite has taken some pretty significant damage at this point, so Ash chooses to switch it out. This ends up being Ash's best tactical decision of the match, as Iris's Dragonite was pretty easily dominating Ash's. That should be expected, I suppose, since Iris has trained her Dragonite more than Ash has trained his. Ash sends Dracovish out next, and after greeting Ash the same way it always does, it jumps right into the battle, and while Ash's Dragonite didn't really have a counter for Iris's, it's a whole different story for Dracovish, who clamps down on Dragonite's head, which immobilizes it, and sets it up for a super effective Ice Fang attack, which ends up knocking Dragonite out. This is the first time we've seen Ash's Dracovish in a proper battle, and as I suspected, it's really strong. It's definitely not his most well-rounded Pokemon, but its attacks can be pretty devastating. Iris's Dragonite went down kinda easy, but to be fair, it did take damage from the initial Dragonite duel, and well, it flew straight into the buzzsaw that is Ash's Dracovish. So I don't really think there's any shame in the way Dragonite went out here. That being said, this was the first time any of Ash's Pokemon have defeated a Champion's Pokemon, so that's a pretty big accomplishment for Ash. So who's up next? Is it Excadrill, Emolga, Gible, that Goodra that Iris may or may not have? She says it's her trump card, so surely she can't mean Axew. Oh, hello, Axorus. Yeah, that cute little Axew sure has grown up. And Iris explains that her partner Pokemon has grown up to become her ace, and after a Dragon Pulse followed by a Psycho Cut, Ash's Dracovish is down just like that. Well then, that's more like it from Miss Unova Champion. So we're down to Haxorus vs Dragonite, and things do not look good for Ash, but he's been here before, and just like he did against Karina, he decides to use Dragon Dance to power up Dragonite, and the real battle is only just beginning. Haxorus uses Outrage to fend off Dragonite, and when it gets confused from the attack, it just slams its head into the ground to shake it off. You know, just like Gladion's Lycanroc when it bit its hand in the Alola League Finals to shake off its Outrage confusion. So fun fact about Haxorus' moveset, it was actually really cool to see it use Outrage so effectively here, because for the longest time there was this very strange trivia fact that the only time Iris's Axew had ever used Outrage was in the episode that it learned the move. It just never used it again after that, so to see it put to such good use after all these years was a nice touch. Ash's Dragonite is on the back foot at this point, and it's kinda flustered, so Iris, well, I showed you part of this sequence at the beginning of this video. I guess the best way I could describe it would be like some kind of telepathic therapy session, as Iris uses her understanding the feelings of Dragon-type Pokemon thing again. I don't know why Iris is doing this during the middle of the battle instead of just finishing Dragonite off and winning the match, but anyway, she talks to Dragonite about how her Axew started learning new moves and having more and more fun battling, and suggests Dragonite try to have more fun in battle since that will make Ash happy, and it's obvious to her that Dragonite really cares about Ash. A detail about this that I actually didn't immediately recognize was that what Iris is doing here could be considered a reference to Pokemon Black, because in that game she serves as the move tutor for Draco Meteor and teaches that move to powerful dragon types with high friendship. Back into the actual battle now, and Ash pulls out the old counter shield technique by telling Dragonite to use Hurricane on itself, which protects it from the moves Haxorus tries sending its way. It's not explicitly referred to as a counter shield, but that's basically what it was, and even Iris gets fired up seeing how hard Dragonite is working for Ash, which again is a little strange to me, but Iris's demeanor changes when she sees Dragonite draw on all the energy from a blocked Dragon Pulse attack, and Drayden points out that this has allowed it to learn a new move. And we've seen Ash's Dragonite unleash some powerful attacks before, but this one takes the cake. This Draco Meteor was incredible. It just completely overwhelmed Iris's Haxorus. It can't do anything to defend itself and takes this crazy attack head on. I can't really describe it better. Like, this may as well have been a Z move. It looked that powerful, and it ended up being the decisive finish to the match as Haxorus is declared unable to battle. Dragonite already has Ash in his arms as they celebrate their victory. So this is the first time Ash has ever defeated a champion, and albeit it's a fairly new champion and one of Ash's old friends, someone that he's defeated several times before, but Iris was presented as a pretty credible challenge in this episode. The victory ranks Ash up into the Ultra class, and he's now number 99 in the World Coronation series. The episode comes to an end with our two friends and champions shaking hands, and Iris says she'll rank up to the Ultra class eventually, and she'll win another battle against Ash in the future. The closing shot of the episode is a group of silhouettes of Ultra class trainers awaiting Ash, and okay, so we know that's B. Over on the left is pretty clearly Volkner with his Luxray, but what about the others? I've seen all kinds of rampant speculation about this, but I just think the other three human silhouettes are just randoms and not actually notable characters. If you've got your own theories, I'd love to hear them in the comments, but yeah, I feel like this was just teasing Ash's third battle against B and a Volkner return, but maybe, just maybe, the other silhouettes actually were notable people. I mean, if you squint, then maybe that female outline could be Lucy or Sabrina? Maybe not, but at least it's fun to speculate. Alright, let's kick off the discussion portion with a bingo update, and we've got our first tile on the bingo card to check off. Ash's Dragovich was actually shown battling in a World Coronation Series match. This was always going to be one of the easier things to check off on the list, but it has been nice to see Ash's least highlighted Pokemon get some time to shine in the last couple of weeks, and it's nice to see the first bingo tile get cleared off as well. I thought this episode had the potential for a couple of other tiles, most notably a non-Journeys opening theme could have played. I was kind of hoping for a throwback, maybe like Bee and Arrow or another opening from the Best Wishes series to play, but we didn't get that. Of course, we could have easily gotten the Ash is recognized as the Unova Champion, but he was too busy freaking out over Iris becoming the Unova Champion. The other potential tile this episode could have checked off is the 10 out of 10 rating tile, and speaking of which, I'm giving this episode a 9 out of 10 rating. Not quite a 10, I thought there was actually quite a few things I could nitpick about with this episode, but overall it was pretty fantastic. One of the best episodes of Pokemon Journey so far, in my opinion. I said last week that I kind of expected things to play out exactly like episode 25, and yeah, they pretty much did. The first half of the episode was focused on reuniting Ash with an old friend, Go met that friend's mentor, and then Ash's Dragonite somehow pulled off a crazy victory to move Ash into the next class of the World Coronation Series. Nearly identical plot lines. That did create a lot of action and excitement, but it opens the episode to the exact same criticisms I had of episode 25. This was rushed and could have so easily been split into 2 episodes. I mean, I'll get into next week's episode in a minute, but it looks like completely unnecessary filler, so why not replace it with the second part of Iris's return? I guess that's just Pokemon Journeys for you. How about the actual battle then? I'm sure there are a few mixed opinions about how this Clash of the Champions played out, and actually that's kind of how I want to frame my analysis of this battle. It's important to remember that this was 2 regional champions battling at a high level, but it was also 2 friends facing off against one another. The actual structure of this battle was really similar to Ash's battle with Visquez back in episode 18 of Journeys. It started with 2 similar Pokemon facing off, with Ash recalling his after getting off to a slow start. He picked up a quick KO with Dragovich just like he did with Gengar, but then they were both easily handled by the opponent's second Pokemon. In the end, Ash's last Pokemon came back out and got Ash the victory despite taking a lot of damage. Shout out to my friend @GlazedArmaldo over on Twitter for pointing out these similarities to me. I don't have much of a problem with how the 3 Pokemon got defeated, all seemingly got knocked out fairly easily. I think there's enough explanation for everyone. Iris's Dragonite had taken several hits, and that Ice Fang from Ash's Dragovich had to have been devastating, and although this was Dragovich's first battle we've seen, it's already been set up as an incredibly powerful Pokemon with its jaw-based attacks. But since it hasn't been trained very much, it's no shock to me that it got easily disposed of by Iris's Ace. Basically, I feel like Dragovich is Ash's glass cannon on his team. It can hit hard if it gets an opportunity to land a hit up close, but it's not actually a well-rounded Pokemon at all, and it especially struggles defensively. Then there's Haxorus, and I guess I should back up and say that I will admit I was a little disappointed with Haxorus' involvement in this episode. It makes sense that Iris's Axie was all grown up and really strong now, it just sucks that we saw barely any of that happen on screen. Axie marginally improved throughout the Best Wishes series, but at no point would I have called it a competent battler. Then it just appears back in Pokemon Journeys as the ace Pokemon of Unova's new champion. Again, it makes sense, I guess, but of course I would have liked to have seen more of that development play out on screen. Oh well. Back to the actual battle, and Haxorus looked really strong, but man, Ash's Dragonite is just something else. Its undefeated record remains intact, and it's already time that we can legitimately talk about Dragonite as one of Ash's strongest Pokemon ever. Seriously, ever. It can take a beating from not only a Mega Lucario, but even 2 of the Unova Champion's strongest Pokemon. Its moveset is pretty elite at this point. I guess we don't know what move Draco Meteor replaced, but hopefully it's Hyper Beam because it could never get that move to work. I do understand if some people are frustrated because why is Ash's Dragonite so powerful? We hardly ever see a trainer battle, but it's seemingly invincible and has nearly single-handedly dragged Ash into the Ultra class already. I do get that criticism. It would have been nice to see some more development in regards to how Dragonite has gotten so strong. However, and this isn't the strongest defense, I just kind of accept Dragonite's power for what it is. Ash is a champion, and evidently, champions catch strong Pokemon. Ash and Dragonite have been in sync since day 1, and whenever Ash does have a really strong Pokemon on his team, there's usually some kind of obstacle getting in their way of trainer and Pokemon reaching their full potential, but that's not the case with Ash and Dragonite. In fact, when it looked like they could potentially lose their first battle, Iris strengthened their bond even more, and really, just how is Dragonite ever going to lose now? now. It'll happen eventually, and I just hope they tell that story well, because now that they've made this absolute juggernaut, its eventual defeat has to make sense. I want to go back to that moment when Iris started communicating with Dragonite mid-battle again. I called it a telepathic therapy session before, and yeah, this was really weird. Although I can appreciate pretty much everything else about the battle, this was the thing that really stood out to me as a flaw in this match. It's really the same thing I pointed out in Ash's recent battle against Rinto, which is that I hate to see trainers in the anime take their foot off the gas, and I guess in this case, Iris didn't just take her foot off the gas, she jumped into the other car and started driving for Ash. In such a competitive match, why would Iris be helping her opponent here? I don't like that. I wish it had been more cutthroat and Iris could have had this heart-to-heart with Dragonite after the battle instead. With that criticism said, I will say that this was a fantastic character moment for Iris. I mean, taking this out of the context of the actual battle and instead looking at it purely from the perspective of Iris chasing her dream of becoming a Dragon Master, then this was a phenomenal scene for that. I mean, everything Iris has been training for was basically on display here, so from that perspective, it was awesome and arguably the highlight of the episode. But in the context of a ranked battle, I wish it hadn't happened when it did. So yeah, I guess that's my take on the episode. I liked it a lot. It's one of the best episodes of Journey so far, but it could have been better. I'm a little caught between two minds since I can overanalyze it and be so critical of it, but when it comes to my rating and actual enjoyment of the 21 minutes of television that I watched, Iris's return and seeing these two champions battle was so much fun. And that's why this episode gets a 9 out of 10 for me, and I'm probably going to watch this episode back 1 or 2 more times just to enjoy it again. So that was me trying to keep the review/discussion portion as concise as I possibly could. I just had so many thoughts after watching this episode, so I apologize if I've been going on for too long here. Of course, I'm very curious to hear your guys' takes on the episode down in the comments, and we've already been discussing it over in my Discord server, so feel free to hop in on that discussion over there. The next episode, like I said before, looks like complete filler. We saw in the special preview for Project Mew that there would be a random episode about Ghost Flabebe, and well, we're getting it next week. Honestly, I have zero expectations for this episode, like I'm sure we'll be fine, but wow, what a come down from Iris's big return to an episode all about one of Ghost Flabebe, who probably ranks pretty low down on my list of favorite Go Pokemon. I should probably make that full list one day. That would make for one long ranked video. Thanks so much for watching this video, and let me know what you guys thought about Iris's return, as well as any of your theories regarding Volkner and any of the other silhouettes we saw at the end of the episode. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.